Hafide Todu Hamzu, thank you for your participation in today's virtual public hearing. This virtual public hearing is convened by the Committee on Heritage and the Arts, Parks, Guam Products, Hagåtña Revitalization, Self-Determination, and Regional Affairs. For the record, in accordance with the open government law, public hearing notices were given to all senators, stakeholders, and all main media broadcasting outlets, with the first notice sent out on Friday, November 20th, 2020, and again on Monday, November 23rd, 2020. The second notice was sent on Sunday, November 29th, 2020. The virtual public hearing notice is also posted at the Guam Legislature website at www.guamlegislature.org. Today is Tuesday, December 1st, and the time is 5:23. This virtual confirmation hearing is now called to order. Sedus Maasi for your virtual attendance at this evening's hearing. On the agenda for this evening's virtual confirmation hearing is the appointment of Robert J. Steffi to serve as a member of the Department of Parks and Recreation Commission. The committee will receive oral testimony for E. Magahaga's nominee at this hearing. For the viewing public's benefit, the committee will continue to accept written testimony that will be made a part of today's public hearing record. Joining me today, we have Minority Leader Senator Tello Taitagui, so we're very appreciative of her being here. And we also have the Director, Mr. Roque Alcantara, and the Deputy Director of the Department of Parks and Recreation, Victor Villagomez. So thank you to both of you for attending as well. So I'd like to set up some general rules of conduct for those that are virtually participating in today's virtual hearing. The conduct of the hearing shall be as follows. All participants must abide by rules of conduct and quality assurance standards, including broadcasting from a quiet room with little to no interruptions. The use of virtual backgrounds is not permitted. All participants must broadcast from a room with adequate lighting, specifically to ensure that a participant's face is not backlit, but visible at all times when speaking. When speaking, please ensure that you are unmuted and that you speak clearly into your microphone. I will moderate this hearing by recognizing each participant before presenting their oral testimony. Before speaking, please clearly state your name and title for record-keeping purposes. The order of questioning will begin with the panel of senators who are present, and that may just be the minority leader and myself, which is very good. We're both attentive people. And each panel member will be allowed to pose one question and then be allowed to ask a further question in a subsequent round if that is found necessary. Oral testimonies received shall be kept to the substance of the issues on the agenda. Personal inference as to the character of a nominee, senator, or any individual testifying is not permitted. Any violation of this general rule of conduct will result in the removal of that person from this virtual public hearing by the host. I ask that all participants keep their comments or testimony to within 5 minutes, although we have a little flexibility since we're a small, cozy group. And now let me move forward on this virtual public hearing. Hafide. A board or commission member's work involves much volunteer time and commitment and provides an important link between the public and agency, the legislature and the governor. Each board is unique in its purpose, mission, and role. It is essential that members be familiar with their board's governing statutes or other authorizing directives to understand the board's framework. I want to call upon Mr. Robert J. Steffi to provide his testimony to serve as a member of the Department of Parks and Recreation Commission, and then receive testimonies from individuals confirmed to participate in his nomination. And as I mentioned before, I'm acknowledging and very appreciative of the Director of the Department of Parks and Recreation and the Deputy Director of that same department for being here. We know that they have a very full set of obligations, and so we appreciate that they made the time to participate in today's virtual public hearing. So with that, I will recognize Mr. Robert Steffi to provide his testimony and general comments to the committee and the panel. And then we will move on to the director, who will also be providing testimony. So Mr. Steffi, you may begin, and then if you can begin with your name and your title.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Senator Taitano. My name is Robert Steffi. I am a 47-year resident of PD. My wife is Arlene Santos Steffi, and we have 5 children. I arrived on Guam in 1974 and have spent most of my adult life here. During the 47 years, I have been involved in sports, first as an athlete and then as a sports administrator. My commitment to sports is also demonstrated by my family's active involvement in basketball, swimming, golf, track and field, tennis, and softball. In fact, it was at Guerrero softball field trying out for the Bank of Guam co-ed softball team that I met Arlene. She was trying out for second base and I was trying out for a pitching position. Our children and eldest 2 of our 8 grandchildren are athletes and have represented Guam in local, regional, international, and world competitions. Our youngest, Spencer, carries a club, not a bat, but brings home championship trophies. Our granddaughters, Madison and Sydney Packbeer, compete in local, regional, and international sports. Maddie was named the 2020 Female Shea Su Ying Scholar Athlete of the Year. Our daughter, Tara, was GNOC's Female Scholar Athlete in 1995 after graduation from high school. I share this to show that the Steffis are a sports-minded athletic family. Now, regarding my sport administrative positions, I am and have been the Secretary General and Treasurer of the Guam National Olympic Committee since 2000. I'm President of the Guam Amateur Softball Association since 1981. I'm President of the Guam Major League since 2007. I'm former President and current Vice President of the Baseball Confederation of Oceania and founding President and current Vice President of the Oceania Softball Confederation. I was a member and chairman of the Parks and Recreation Commission during the Gutierrez and Felix Camacho administrations. These are trying times, and I want to assist the new administrator of the Department of Parks and Recreation. I met Roque Alcantara over 40 years ago. We've played together on championship softball teams. We worked together on the softball tournaments during the 1994 Micronesian Games and the 1999 South Pacific Games held on Guam. Roque Alcantara and I have worked together on Guam Major League seasons when he was the league commissioner. Roque and I recently worked as tournament officials in January of this year when Guam hosted and won the 15 under Oceania baseball tournament. The victory earned Guam a spot in the World Baseball Softball Confederation Classic, which includes the top 12 15 and under teams in the world. As a member of the Parks and Recreation Commission, I will help develop policies and strengthen relationships with other government agencies and private sector entities to assist in making our parks and recreation facilities places that people go to be healthy and stay fit. The baseball relationship between the Department of Parks and Recreation has resulted in Guam being ranked 43 in the world, which is the highest of any federation in Guam. I included to bring up 2 other matters, but they have been addressed by Bills 295-35 COR and Bill 426-35 COR, both of which I fully support. Thank you, Senators, for your favorable consideration of this appointment.
For your testimony, Mr. Steffi. Yes, it was a very good outlining of your experience here and your family's experience and your breadth of familiarity with our island, our facilities at DPR, and so forth. And as you probably know, it's a very large mandate, which we'll talk about a little bit more in a minute. But Let me turn this over to Director Alcantara so that he may provide testimony, so if he should so choose.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Senator Kelly Marsh, and Senator Taitano. My name is Roki Anderson Alcantara, Director of Parks and Rec. I am here in support of the nomination of Bob Steffi as a commission member of the Department of Parks and Recreation. I have known Bob for over 45 years. We played softball in the same team for more than a decade. He was a pitcher and a great one. He limits hitters from hitting the ball to third base, where I played. Bob is also the president of Guam Major League, a league with exceptional baseball players that can compete with any team in the United States. I have the pleasure of working with Bob as a commissioner of Guam Major League until now, the present time. Guam Major League has been in existence since 1974, and hoping to have a season opener earlier this coming year. Bob is a good man with intelligence, and I support his nomination as a commission member and know for sure that he will help DPR on any issues that arises. He has a lot of experience with the DPR commission, holding positions as chairman and vice chairman. He also has a profession. He is also a professional CPA, and should be a plus for the department for accountability of funds. I look forward in working with Mr. Steffi for the betterment of the Parks and Recreation. Thank you.
Tzuis Masi, Director, that was very good testimony, and all the things that you highlight are things that we like to hear, especially ending on that CPA note and accountability. I think both the minority leader and I are pleased to have that additional accountability. That's so important. So I just want to go over a few things, and then I'll open it up to the minority leader if she has a question. And it's just as I was saying, that the mandate is very large. And to be quite honest, I've thought about the Department of Parks and Rec quite a lot over the last 2 years about what makes the most sense for the department. And that's something I think that the board and the director can continue to do. I think if it's set up like it used to be, and we're trying to get it back to the way that it used to be with a full-time recreation administrator, which has just been hired, but also a full-time parks administrator. And I've even thought that a grounds administrator or a cemetery/grounds administrator, because that cemetery's been added on, is maybe something to consider, because there's a whole lot of work over the entire island. And as I read in the newspaper the other day, including Cocos Island. So with that, it also has these recreational facilities, the swimming pool, the Paseo Stadium, and these other parts of its mandate. So again, it's rather large. And I just want to point out that I do commend the administration for making sure that a board has indeed gotten into place. And, it became functional quite a while back, because I believe it was 6 years that it didn't have a functional board. And we can see that maybe without that guidance and activity, that there just were things that we're now trying to pull back together. And I think that was something that was missing for a real long time. So I'm glad that the board's in place. And as I mentioned before, the board members, I'm pleased at the selection, because they are people who use our parks. They use our waters by paddling in them, or they use our facilities, such as Mr. Steffi here, right, with his great familiarity with our baseball stadium and so forth. So I think that's going to be a real plus for calling upon our board board and have this vision for how we're going to go forward. I think some of what we need to do is reevaluate. Our parks aren't used in the same ways as they used to be necessarily. And so I think getting together and doing some of this revisioning is good for the long term, not immediately, maybe necessarily, but I think it's going to be an important part of refiguring out how everything fits back together and serves the community and gets the community involved in very active ways. So I guess my one question before I give it over to the minority leader would be what Mr. Steffi has, maybe if he's thought along these ways, if he's had some thoughts about the vision of maybe a new or a refined direction, or maybe just the biggest need that he's observed over the years for the parks, and maybe something he might focus on early on.
Senator, I think one of the issues that I've discussed with Roki already, and you know, when I came to Guam, Parks and Recreation had 200 employees. Now they have less than 40. When I got here, Parks and Recreation was in charge of the Veteran Cemetery, and you know, we passed the other cemetery every day on our way to Agana, and I was involved with Jack Jones when GCC when there was some funding and GCC built the wall around that cemetery. So I'm certainly familiar with the issues. You know, one of your bills that allows for the revolving fund to be reenacted, I think is going to be very beneficial to the department, because the funds that are generated by the parks and the funds that are generated by Paseo should stay with those facilities and not go to the general fund where they're lost. You know, when I got to Guam, just the sale of the billboards at Paseo Stadium generated about $60,000 a year. The prior administrations didn't want to release the ability for the Baseball Federation to sell the billboards. And Roki and I have talked about that. And I mean, I think there's ways to generate funds for the sporting facilities. I think there's ways to generate funds for the parks. You know, one of the things that I think may be possible, the Guam National Olympic Committee has 26 active federations. I think some of these federations would be in positions to adopt parks. And you know, Roki and I have talked about the Baseball Federation assuming the responsibility for Paseo. The biggest problem with that is the cost of the utilities. I mean, if there would be some way that we could do it, you know, we would have the ability to maintain that whole facility. It's the utility cost that generates the problem. You know, another problem for the department is the pools. And what Rick Bloss has done is he has contacted FINA, the International Swimming Federation, to see if there's any grant money available to assist in the development of a new pool. And I understand the governor has suggested that the pool be built at the Northern Sports Complex, but there's a lack of funding. And what we're trying to do at the Olympic Committee level is to see if there's any funding possible from FINA. You know, the Olympic Committee has been working with DOE on the training of umpires and coaches for high school sports. The idea being that these are the people that are going to be participating and calling games at Paseo. So I mean, I think that, you know, one of the initiatives that we started earlier this year was to train umpires and officials for DOE. The superintendent suggested that we do something like that, and we had a program set up within a week. And we trained 15 new coaches and 6 new umpires. So I think, you know, I mean, I think Roki is the right guy to have there with his background. He's got a master's degree in management. You know, if anything, he's probably overqualified for the position. But I think, you know, he and I get along very well. We've been friends for over 40 years. I think, I mean, I look forward to getting back into the commission, and you know, I mean, I don't think that if the bills that you're proposing pass, I think the department's going to be able to generate some real revenue that can be used at the park level and at the recreation level.
Excellent. You know, your amount of experience, both specifically with the Department of Parks and Recreation and with our sports community, and then just with our community in general, I just think that's going to bring so much experience and skills that we really need. And, you know, we need somebody who's a go-getter. And yeah, I keep on telling people, don't say anything that's going to scare away our director. He's been shaping up quite a lot. And as you mentioned, there used to be 200 people there, and now he's trying to make do with 40. So we're having to be real creative, and we were really hoping that this was the year that we were going to increase the budget, and then this fiscal crisis happened, but it was in the works. And so we're still having to make do with our old budget. But anything we can do to generate revenue is, of course, going to help, and we want to safeguard that. So I know I've talked a real long time, and the minority leader's been patient, but please, minority leader, if you have a question for Mr. Steffi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the opportunity. Before I start, I'd like to congratulate Roki. Congratulations on your confirmation. We confirmed you today at the legislature. So congratulations as the director.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Senator.
Not that you had anything to worry about. It was not at all.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
Congratulations. You know, you hit something on the nail, Robert, when you mentioned you have a good relationship with the director, and that's really important. The foundation that's, you know, starting out as friends is important. You get along, and that's very, very important. You might not agree, or, you know, you might agree, but at least you have that friendship that will keep you together and keep you working together, because there is a lot of work to be done over there. And now that you're retired out of sports, you know, a couple years ago, not doing any sports. I don't know about golf, but now you have an opportunity to keep that legacy, not only what you've done, but your family and now your grandchildren, and providing a place for them to work out, to go play softball, to play baseball, to play golf, you know, to go to the beaches and the parks, you know, and practice your skills there. So now I greatly appreciate you stepping up. I call you the money man because we all know you have an accounting degree, and if there's any way to find some money, I'm pretty sure you'll be the person to find it and find ways of making money for the agency. So thank you, Robert. I know you can do a lot more, you can do other things, but I'm glad that that you're here at Parks and Rec. There is one thing I do have a question, and maybe it might go to the director, I'm not quite sure, but the SHPO, Parks and Rec oversees, you know, the restrooms, the facilities, et cetera, down the line. But does the board also oversee SHPO's, the SHPO department?
No, they have a different board.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, they have another board. Oh,
Yes.
okay. Okay. So so you have two boards that are all manned over at Parks and Rec, then the Parks and Rec board and the SHPO board. Okay. Well, I'm excited for you, and I'm excited for the agency having you on board, Robert. Thank you again for stepping up to the plate. And my door is always open if there's anything that you'd like to discuss or implement some legislation that would help Parks and Rec. Roki already knows that, and Mr. Villagomez knows that my door is always open. So thank you so much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
This Masi, minority leader. And yes, you know, I used to sit on that board, so I know it very well. It's the Historic Preservation Review Board, and it oversees both the Historic Preservation Office and Preservation Trust. It's kind of unusual in that way. Yes. So I think we've covered just kind of the breadth of things. And I know as Mr. Steffi, should this nomination go forward and be confirmed, and Mr. Alcantara, the Director Alcantara, will continue to have these conversations about the breadth of what is going on over there at the Department of Parks and Recreation. One of the things we had yesterday was a launch of the Seashore Protection Plan that's being put together. And so there is the Territorial Seashore Park that the DPR oversees as well. And there is a board, which is basically the GLUC, and I think a couple other members that comprise that board. But that will be a 2-year project. And so I'm sure from time to time, they will be reaching out to the Department of Parks and Recreation itself. So there are just elements like that. And as I said, you know, I'm open, and it sounds like the minority leader is open as well. You know, as you sit and go through this, it's true, the department has really changed. It's changed from 200 people to about 40. It's changed from having DOC be able to help, and then we get situations like this where DOC is not able to help with maintenance. And as you were mentioning, the recreation fund hasn't been performing like it has in the past. And so these are things that we would be willing to listen to if there are seen as needs for revisioning or reshaping the department in some way. There may be some best practices sort of models out there. I've read about some where they get real strong community involvement. That's a real long-term process. So please continue to look at those things. I know both of you are movers and shakers. You make things happen, and you have real strong skill sets in administration and leadership and being able to make things happen, even if the landscape is complex and multifaceted. So I think those facets are going to really, really benefit where we're at right now as we try to build this department back up. Was there any last question or comment you wanted to have, a minority leader, before I close? Okay. Yes, so you definitely have my support, Mr. Steffi. I really think that this nomination will go through pretty easily, and that we'll have you on board very shortly. Our next session actually is just next week, because we're trying to beat the Christmas rush. So you may be appointed and confirmed sooner rather than later. It may just be a couple of weeks before we get your confirmation in. So I think that will be a good thing for the department.
Senator, I'd like to just, can I make one more comment? You know, I wanted to point out that before Roki came on board, Victor assisted us the last 2 years. You know, we've hosted international baseball tournaments every year. And I wanted to mention that Victor assisted us the last 2 years. And since then, you know, we're the second ranked team in Oceania behind Australia. We're ahead of New Zealand, and New Zealand is who we beat in the tournament in January. You know, being ranked as high as we are is a direct result of Parks and Recreation's assistance with the use of the facilities. And again, we work very well together. Roki's a baseball, softball player. I never played baseball. When I was growing up in Hawaii, I paddled canoes. I didn't play baseball. But when I got to Guam, I started playing softball, and that's about the time that I met him. So we've, again, you know, I look forward to very good things coming. I know 3 of the people on the commission right now. They're involved with sports, with the Olympic Committee. You know, I think the partnership, and Roki and I have talked about this even before the nomination. I was nominated by the governor to get GNOC more involved with different sports. I think baseball is as tight as we can be with Parks and Recreation. Now it's time to get the other sports involved. And you know, one of them, for instance, is paddling, and I think they would be a prime person to adopt Matapang Park. You know, I don't know if they have or not, but I think we can twist their arm a little bit. because they use that facility. And I think there's other federations that could do the same thing, because I know what Roki's problems, his monetary problems are. And you know, he's familiar with the GNOC board. He's familiar with Rick. We've all lived here. You know, I haven't lived here as long as they have, but you know, almost 50 years. That's not bad. I'm not going anywhere. So thank you, senators, and thank you, Roki and Vic.
And thank you for those additional comments. Yes, you know, I used to write for a real long time a political review for Guam every year, but I always made it a little bit more comprehensive to capture our community. And I always made sure to have a section there about sports as well, because we rank very highly quite often in national competitions and Pacific competitions and regional competitions and so forth. And so it's something for us to be really proud of. And we need to do our part as a government through these partnerships and otherwise to make sure that we're providing as much support as we can for these budding athletes. So I appreciate your thinking in that as well. So with that, I'll go ahead and close out this virtual hearing. The committee will continue to receive written testimonies for the next few days. Please address your written testimony to the Committee on Heritage and the Arts, Parks, Guam Products, Hagåtña Revitalization, Self-Determination, and Regional Affairs. Written testimonies may be submitted by email to office.senatorkelly@guamlegislature.org, or if they may be physically presented at the Guam Congress Building. Saduas Maasi for your attendance and participation in today's virtual confirmation public hearing. Today's virtual hearing is now adjourned. Saduas Maasi for your attendance and participation. The time is now 5:54. Have a good break, and we will reconvene at 6:30 for public hearings on a couple of related bills to the Department of Parks and Recreation. Saduas Maasi.
Thank you.
Hi to Arlene for me.